What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode. A lot of stuff to talk about this week that happened. NBA Finals games. Some people potentially on the move in the NBA before the Finals even ends. Some baseball stuff to cover. Just a lot of stuff to kind of get into here. We'll talk about it all. This is your Sports Digest. I'm your host, Alex McNinch, back again with another episode. And as I previously mentioned, there's a lot of stuff going on this week. But first, I want to do a little bit of an announcement, housekeeping type of thing. This is something that I think is so cool. And if you know me personally, you know that one of my favorite things to do is watch sports, watch players and evaluate them, scout them, and all this type of stuff. It is probably my favorite thing to do when watching games or trying to learn about the games. And if you also know me, one of my favorite things when I was little to do was to write. I wrote a lot. I would write things down on my notebook, type things out on my computer, hypotheticals. You would see me with a notebook when I was younger, just writing every player's name that I knew in a notebook, or writing every roster, stuff like that. So that's something I love to do. And now that I have the opportunity to host this show, host this podcast, and kind of speak my mind, I wanted to integrate both sides of the scouting and my writing ability into one. And I am happy to announce and say that I have launched my first very own website. It'll be yoursportsdigest.com, all one word. You go there, and we'll have some extra stuff on there too. A little bit later on in this video, or this episode, we'll talk a little bit about NBA draft prospects and my top 10 prospects, in my opinion, going into the draft. And to see my full listing of the top 60 players in this draft, in my opinion, from all my film breakdown, all my videos I've watched and read about and stuff throughout the year, I have compiled my top 60 players in this draft. That is at yoursportsdigest.com. I will have that type of stuff there. My mock draft for the NBA, when it comes out, go there. A bunch of stuff on that website. So if you could go, if you wanted to see a lot of this stuff and kind of get a little bit more of my breakdown, then go ahead and head over to that website. I'm super excited to launch this, be able to have this available for you guys to see, because there's only so much I could say in the 45-minute time frame that I normally keep these podcasts. I could normally go on for an hour if I wanted all this extra stuff, but we got to consolidate it down a little bit. And I think that having the website was a smart way to kind of reach out to you guys and have you guys see these different things without, missing something I say. You miss an episode, you could watch it on the website. You can read stuff on the website, all that type of stuff. And I learned how to be a Google technician through this website, so I killed two birds with one stone with that. But I appreciate you guys in advance for checking all that out and showing some love on that. But let's go right to the NBA. And we've had a basketball game in between the time that we last spoke, and that would have been Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets. If you don't know already, the series was tied 1-1 going into Wednesday night. And man, what a performance from Denver. What a bounce-back performance after the Game 2, where the entire team was just not shooting, not playing to the level that they were. And you could arguably say that Denver didn't play to the same standard again in Game 3. You just luckily had two incredible performances from your starters and a bench player that shined, and it elevated them to this victory. Nikola Jokic, the first person since some time to have a 30, 20, and 10 game in the NBA Finals. 32, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists was his final stat line. That is ridiculous. The fact to get a 20-20 game in the NBA is insane. A 30-20 game is ridiculous. A 30-20-10 game as a triple-double, absurd. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about, like, who are the best players in the NBA? Who's the best player in the NBA? And the answer is Giannis, Steph, LeBron, all these people, right? But Jokic, man, he's literally climbing up the rankings all time through this series and through these playoffs. And it's not just him that's killing it for this Denver team and keeping them alive, because his counterpart, Jamal Murray, with a 34-point triple-double, 34, 10, and 10, helped elevated that team to a victory as well. Because if you look at the rest of the starting lineup, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 6 points, 1 for 4, only played 28 minutes. Michael Porter Jr., 2 points, 7 rebounds, 1 for 7 from the field, 21 minutes played. Like, that didn't give you much help. Even Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon did a little bit more, 11 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Was kind of a factor on that end. Obviously, he has a more important role than scoring for this Denver team. But if you just look at it, it's like, all right, your starters didn't do good. How does this win? How does this kind of translate out to a win? And you look at Jokic and Murray and playing an outstanding game and pushing this team towards victory. But the key point for this Denver team that I think a lot of people are starting to realize, we've talked about him the past couple episodes now, Christian Braun, the rookie out of Kansas, for Detroit for Denver coming off the bench. 15 points, 4 rebounds, 7 for 8 from the field. Only missed one shot, which was a 3, and I think it was contested at the buzzer. Played 19 minutes, got a steal, a bunch of hustle plays. He is a spark plug off this bench for this team, and he was a do not play, or did not play for most of the second round, or most of the third round, that is, going to the conference finals. He was a DNP for a lot of that time. So to see him kind of regain that playing time is really cool to see, because he is one of those guys that he is just a winner. We talked about it last episode. National champion at Kansas. Guy just wins, plays winning basketball, and makes winning plays. And he proved it tonight to be that third leading scorer on the team off the bench with 15 points for the Denver Nuggets. And to look at Miami's side, normally when a team only has 2 players that are playing really well, or 3 players in that case that's playing really well, you're like, okay, looks like Miami's team victory is going to help you. Looks like their grittiness and toughness is going to edge them out to another victory, kind of like how they did last game. And you look at it, and yeah, Jimmy had his normal 28 points, shot pretty well, did his thing offensively. Bam, still proving he's being unbelievable, 22 and 17. That's fantastic for Bam. But then you look at the rest of it. Max Strus, 3 points, 1 for 7. Gabe Vincent, I know we've talked about it a lot, about how he could be a key factor. 7 points, 2 for 10. Kevin Love, 2 for 5, 6 points. Not really a factor. You don't play Haywood Highsmith until the end of the game, which you did not play him a lot of last game, and I think he would have helped create the margin of victory even more for Miami. And this game would have helped slow down a couple of things as well. Caleb Martin, nowhere near close to the form he was in the Eastern Conference Finals. Only 10 points, 4 for 9. Kyle Lowry, 4 for 8, 9 points. That's all you're asking at him. And same with Duncan Robinson, 9 points. But we talk about it ad nauseum about how Gabe Vincent is the key for this team to win, and it's really proven it. He has a terrible game. They lose. What happened in Game 2 for Gabe Vincent? In Game 2, Miami wins 111 to 108. Gabe Vincent, 23 points, 4 threes hit. They win that game. Right? So Gabe Vincent is truly this extra factor for this team. He is the point guard that is starting. Kyle Lowry got pushed to the bench because Gabe Vincent's ability to work with this rotation, this starting unit, has proven well for this team. And when he's not able to score, Max Strus isn't able to score, nobody else is able to score, then what is this team worth when only 2 of the guys are giving you buckets? It was a 15-point loss for Miami, but again, it seemed like it was even more of a blowout for that. It seemed like that fourth quarter just dragged on forever. A couple things to note in that game as is, Miami was most successful when they switched to the zone. I think Jeff Van Gundy said that there's been no other team in the NBA playoffs to run more zone than Miami, which no shit, Jeff. They're in the NBA Finals. They're going to play more games than the other teams. But to his point, what he's trying to get at, Miami's success on running the zone defense puts these guys like Michael Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon or Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in a box kind of, because they aren't really aware of of how to beat that zone, it's looking like. And then on defense, they're just lost. It translates on both sides. If you're lost on offense, you're going to get lost on defense. And Miami switched out of that zone when they got the game close, and it just went away from them. And Jokic was able to do whatever he wants. But Jokic also makes every shot that he throws up there. It seems like he literally just puts the ball in the air, and you expect it to go in every time. So, he's at that point right now with scoring. And it's kind of the same with Jamal. So when you got guys that are doing that, it's hard to even get these gritty wins like Miami normally can, because you just can't stop. But we all knew that Miami was outmatched going into this. Everybody knew Denver was the much better team going into this finals. But we've seen it throughout the entire playoffs with Miami that their toughness and resilience to be defeated and to go down has led them to this way. You can say that they overperform for their standard, correct. But when you're getting performances like this, it's going to be a dud. You just got to hope that these guys can bounce back. You never want to have these types of performances at home. That's the last place. You're going to lose games on the road, especially in Denver. Altitudes are different. Fan base is crazy. You're not going to win. I mean, Denver, until game 2, had not lost a game at home in this playoffs. So to say that they got one on the road is remarkable, but you got to defend your home court as well. And again, I know they're outmatched, but Miami's got to play a little bit better ball, and I expect that they will here tonight, going into Game 4. I expect there's something with Eric Spoelstra that you could always count on with him, and it's making adjustments, and that's the number one thing when it comes to the NBA Finals is it's making adjustments. It's about which coach can make the adjustments, which players make that adjustment, and listen to their coaches to make the adjustment. You saw it here in Game 3. You saw Miami. Once they went out of that zone, they knew that it was their time to attack. Last game, they saw Christian Brown was going to be that extra guy off the bench that was important. You give him more minutes tonight, and he shined, or last night, and he shined. So, in Miami's case, maybe you shrink down some of those Max Strus minutes and throw Duncan Robinson out there. Maybe you shrink down some of Caleb Martin's minutes and let Kyle Lowry play a little bit of small ball with Gabe Vincent. You got to find ways to have this lineup be effective at so many different levels, because Denver is underperforming massively right now. Their role players are underperforming like we haven't seen them do yet. So this is your time to capitalize. Once they start to catch fire, once Michael Porter Jr. can catch his fire and is shooting 4 for 8 from 3, it's over. The series is over. There's nothing you can do. You have to capitalize when these role players that are relied on to be these extra scorers aren't having these good games. You can't cancel out a dud for a dud. You have to have a guy step up and do it, and Miami just hasn't had a guy to have been able to do that. You're getting consistent play from your bench, but it's your starters that just aren't really holding it down like they should. So hopefully in Game 4 you can see some of that adjustment for Miami. Maybe shorten the rotation, maybe shorten some minutes of starters and play some more bench guys. Just kind of go with how the game goes and take what the game gives you, really. But at the end of the day, it's nearly impossible right now to stop Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. So Game 4 is going to be tough. I want Miami to defend the home court and make this 2-2 so we get more basketball, but I really have this bad feeling that Denver's going to win. I know a lot of people are going to be betting on Denver to win, and that's going to really entice some people to pick Miami, but I don't know. You can't bet against Jokic right now. That's just the thing. You can't. No matter what adjustments you make, you can't stop Jokic. You can only hope to contain him or slow him down. And in this case right now, you can't even do that. So you're just betting on Denver having a complete dud game from their role players, and they've had. It's just Miami's inability to capitalize on that, which has caused them to go down 2-1 in this series. I think by the time we talk again on Monday before Game 5, it's going to be a 3-1 series lead for Denver, and they're going to look to close it out on Monday at home. But that's going to be it for the NBA Finals. There's not much else to talk about besides Miami not capitalizing on the inability of scoring from the role players. That's just kind of what it is. But Some interesting things here. This is where it gets a little bit more fun for me because my favorite stuff about the NBA is the off season. All this kind of drama, all this other crap that goes around the game is a little bit more fun to keep track of, especially when your team's not in it anymore. I think it came out. It was probably Tuesday morning. I think it was Tuesday morning because this is normally what happens. You post a podcast and something really important happens. This happens to me every single time. I swear to you. It either came out Monday or Tuesday morning that there's a report from Shams saying that Kyrie Irving has reached out to LeBron James of potentially coming to Dallas and teaming up with him and Luka. Like I don't even know how that could work. I've tried so many things on my cap simulator, I guess, online to see what it would take to kind of get there, what the equal value would be to give LA. Dallas just doesn't have any pieces to get rid of in order to gain LeBron James. I mean, if you're trying to get LeBron, I mean, at this point, I know it sounds crazy, but the conversations start at Luka, right? Or the conversations start at Kyrie, right? So there's no way, unless LeBron can find a way to get a buyout situation, or next year he opts out of his player option, or he declines the player option and goes to Dallas. But this year, I don't see that there's a case. I also didn't see Kyrie wanting to stay in Dallas coming, really. I thought it was kind of a foregone conclusion after the season that things just weren't going to go well in Dallas, so that they were going to have to lose Kyrie in the offseason. He was going to go want to play with somebody else, but I'm glad he's at least trying to run it back and see what they could do. They have the 10th overall pick. They could trade it. They could draft another young guy. I prefer to trade it if I'm Dallas over drafting another young talent, because right now with Luka, he's in his prime. I don't know if Luka is like Damian Lillard and is willing to wait anymore, because if this team can't, or this organization can't field a team that is willing to go out and win every night, or works around Luka, or competes at a high level, Luka's just going to want out, right? There's been rumors about him wanting out. Obviously, he's declined it and signed the extension and everything, but it's only a matter of time until, we've seen it all over the NBA for so many years. The stars get tired of losing. They get tired of the crappy teams that the organizations put together, and they're just like, I'm done. Let me go. Please just send me somewhere else. So hopefully Dallas can field a team around Luka and now Kyrie, I guess. Will it be LeBron? I'll tell you right now, I highly, highly, highly doubt we'll ever see LeBron in a Dallas Mavericks uniform. I highly doubt it. You could bet a lot of money from my side that we will not be seeing LeBron James in a Dallas Mavericks uniform. But then again, it is also LeBron James, and what LeBron wants to do, LeBron's going to do. So I also wouldn't bet against it, but I believe that there's no chance that we're going to see him in a Dallas Mavericks uniform. I see Kyrie in a Lakers uniform more likely than it is, and it's already come out that the Lakers aren't interested in going after Kyrie. Is that a smokescreen? Maybe, potentially, but I honestly also think that they are not interested in Kyrie, and they want to go a little bit younger at that guard position with that extra money that they have going into the off season. Another really interesting thing that just came out last night, right before the finals started, and it was in the middle of the finals even maybe, and it was that Chris Paul was getting waived by the Phoenix Suns. It was reported by Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports. It was reported that the Suns were going to outright waive him to look forward to this offseason. He's owed $30 million, I believe, this year, and they could save 15 of it if they cut him or waive him by a certain date, and it's looking like that could happen. So I guess it's 15 mil guaranteed for this next year. And then Adrian Wojnarowski came out on the pregame panel or at halftime or something and said that that they were going to look to try to trade him or maybe find a way of a buyout or a waive, whatever, to kind of dish him to a team that he wants to be. And then Shams came out and said that there's a chance that he could get waived and then be re-signed by Phoenix. And it's just like, what the hell's happening? First of all, I was told by Chris Haynes that he's getting executed. Then Woj is like, maybe we'll just lightly send him off on a good farewell tour. And then Shams is like, yeah, no, actually, he's just still on the team. They're just going to cut him and sign him for less. They can save money. I don't know what's going on there, but all of this stuff about Chris Paul up in the air brings a lot of fans into the question of, if Chris Paul is not returning to Phoenix, where could he go? You see the Lakers get thrown around. You see Phoenix obviously be thrown around. But we're going to go down a couple of these teams that are being talked about that he could go to, and how likely or how good of a fit I think they would be. LA, we're going to start out with, and I think LA is a good fit, kind of. You're running it with another old guy, but I also, again, like I just mentioned a second ago with Kyrie, I don't know if LA's wanting to go after an older point guard. They want to go after a guy that's a little bit younger, can kind of be the next part of this franchise going forward after LeBron's gone, after AD's kind of putting it up. I think they want to try to go after somebody a little bit younger that can maybe extend them a couple more years. But you also can't turn down the fact that Chris Paul on a veteran minimum. The next team, obviously going back to Phoenix, that would be the ideal spot if you're Chris Paul. It's just a return for Phoenix on a less or on a smaller contract in order to free up some cap space to go sign an extra bench piece or role player or two. That would make the most sense. He fits well with that team. He just has to stay healthy. Moving on to the next team, a lot of people saying the LA Clippers. I don't really like that with this new LA Clippers team. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both like to have the ball in their hands and work in isolation a lot, and they create the assists together. There's no need to bring in another ball-dominant point guard who needs the ball in his hands. Chris Paul isn't a spot-up shooting guard. Chris Paul is known as one of the best playmakers and facilitators of all time. There's no need to have Chris Paul be playing off the ball at all. So I would not see him going to the Clippers likely at all. Boston, a lot of people want him to go to Boston. It already came out today, and I didn't think this in the first place, that he'd ever go to Boston. Just a personal thing. If you know some history with Chris Paul in Boston, I don't think he likes that at all. And then the last team, well, first of all, I want to say that I saw some people say to bring him to Memphis, and that would absolutely be dumb. As much as I would like a Chris Paul type of veteran in this locker room or on this team, you got Ja and you got Tyus, right? And obviously Ja's going to be suspended for X amount of games. But I don't think Chris Paul's wanting to come off the bench when Ja comes back. Chris Paul wants to start full-time. And if Chris Paul is okay with coming off the bench, I'm not running a backcourt of Chris Paul and Tyus Jones. That's way too small for me. No defense for me. So I'll pass on that for all the Grizzlies fans that have been saying to bring him here. The last team that I think would be a great fit for him, and you could execute this in a trade after the finals if this team loses, it's the Miami Heat. And to get Chris Paul in there to be that extra dominant point guard facilitator, you don't know how much Gabe Vincent's going to want in the offseason as a free agent. Kyle Lowry's making way too much money. You could ship off that contract to Phoenix to where now if you're Phoenix, you don't have to worry about Kyle Lowry having the ball in his hands so much to facilitate. You can let Devin Booker kind of take control of the ball, facilitate on his own, and Kyle Lowry kind of be that spot-up off-the-ball point guard that doesn't have to have the ball in his hands all the time to be effective, to whereas Chris Paul going to Miami can be that ball-dominant guard to help give Jimmy Butler some off-ball looks, help work Bam Adebayo in the pick and roll. That would be a beautiful thing. So I think that would be the best place for Chris Paul if he was not going to go back to Phoenix. Otherwise, I think Chris Paul in a Phoenix Suns uniform probably would be the best thing to stay the same and moving forward in his final years of his career. And now we're going to move on to something I kind of teased earlier. This is my favorite thing to do as a podcaster, as a sports fan. It's to scout, to watch film, learn, break down players, and rank them. And if you don't know me, I every single year do a breakdown on the draft. I always rank the players on my big board. I always do multiple mock drafts. And this year, now that I have a podcast, I have the ability to share it all with you guys. Like I mentioned, I'm just going to be doing my top 10 players to look at going into this draft. It's just going to be the top 10 players. Kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea on who some of these guys are, who are these names you're going to be hearing for the next few years, and maybe multiple decades. in NBA history. If you want my full 60, yes, 60 top players in this draft ranked, in my opinion, on what I've watched and read and have seen throughout the regular college season or watching other highlights, go to yoursportsdigest.com, all one word, yoursportsdigest.com, and you can click on the tab to go down to the NBA and click on the 2023 draft big board to see all of the picks there. We're going to start off with number 1. And I think everybody knows this name by now. If you don't, then you've obviously been living under a rock. And the number 1 player in this class, in my opinion, and everybody's opinion, is Victor Wembanyama. He is a center from France. He is 7'4", and he can do everything. He can shoot threes. He can work in the post. He can dribble. He can block shots. Anything you want Victor Wembanyama to do, he can do. He's the consensus number 1. The lottery was literally the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. So if that can tell you anything, people were saying that he's the best prospect in NBA history, the best prospect since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, LeBron James. He is that level of excitement. I feel bad for him because he's getting all this hype, but I also know that he is such a good talent to where he can handle this type of pressure and perform well. If you were to look at one thing about him that, might be his, I guess, quote unquote flaw, would be his defense and his lateral quickness. But then again, he is 7'4", so, his lateral quickness isn't going to be there all that much, but he makes up with it for his length and his shot blocking. He's such an effective player. He's easily the number 1 overall pick, no question about it. Moving on to number 2, it's a toss-up between 2 players. Who's going to go 1 and 2, or who's going to go 2 and 3? And in my personal opinion, from what I've watched, what I've read, and what I've seen with the eye test, Scoot Henderson is the second best player in this class. If Victor Wembanyama wasn't a thing or wasn't in this draft class, Scoot Henderson is easily the number 1 overall pick this year. Scoot Henderson out of the G League Ignite took the alternative route to go to the G League and play there. Had some injury issues this year, so we couldn't see him at full play, but he's an explosive guard, loves to attack the rim, has great defensive upside, tenacious on the glass as a point guard, which is rare from a lot of guys. I look at him at kind of like I don't like to do player comparisons. I like to do play style comparisons. It's a little bit different. I'd say if you're looking at a guy that he plays like, this is not saying he's going to turn into him or he is already him. It is what he plays like. It's like a Westbrook. He's gonna attack the rack. He's gonna shoot it okay. He'll shoot it serviceably, but he's gonna bring you a lot of intensity on the defensive end, crash the glass, facilitate. Like I said, if there wasn't any Wembanyama, he would be the number 1 overall pick. No doubt. And then number 3, I think 2 and 3 could be interchangeable, but you're going to get a good prospect either way. The number 3 ranked player in my top big board is Brandon Miller out of Alabama. A name that I bet a lot of you are more familiar with due to playing in college basketball. He is all you could want in a forward in the NBA. 6'9", an elite scorer. Some of the stuff you see him do is very Brandon Ingram and Kevin Durant-esque. The way he shoots his mid-range, his release point is kind of similar. The way he attacks the game and gets to his spots are very similar to the way that they play. But he's also an improving defender, very good at rebounding. I think that a lot of people have him going to Charlotte at number 2 to play alongside LaMelo Ball, and I would not hate that idea. He is just as good as a prospect as Scoot is. It's just his all-around scoring ability is what kind of puts him above a lot of the other guys, other forwards in this class that we'll get to. Number 4, and once you get past the top 3, once you get past Wemby, Scoot, and Brandon Miller, you kind of hit this road from 4 to the end of the draft where it's like, well, This guy could actually be all the way up here, or he can be way down here. It's just based on opinion. It's based on what you think could happen, team fit, play style, all this type of stuff. But at number 4, I have Cam Whitmore, forward out of Villanova, a name that a lot of people might not recognize. He was a top 10 high school prospect going into this year as a freshman, had surgery in the offseason, was sidelined to start the season with an injury. And once he came back after his injury, he was kind of inefficient, was still trying to find his footing. He came back in December time frame, so it was kind of an odd time for him to come back, really starting into conference play, where he didn't get any ramp-up games. He didn't get any of these high-level tests. He just kind of got thrown into the fire. But as the season went along and went down the stretch towards the end of the season, he really shined and excelled well. A forward, I think he's 6'6", a prototypical 6'6" small forward build in the NBA, and he does anything that a small forward would do. He shot 40% on catch and shoot threes, which if you look at his numbers for this year, they don't represent how good of a player he is. I really think that Cam Whitmore could be up in this top echelon of players in this class in a few years once he develops and gets some of his game developed, I guess you could say. But he loves to attack and finish around the rim. Like I said, 40% on catch and shoot threes this year, which is incredible. The only thing about it is his shot is a little slow, but that's nothing that an NBA shot doctor can't fix or tweak a little bit. He's a very good on-ball defender. You would be surprised, but he's extremely savvy on the defensive end. He's got good size and strength, so it helps them that way as well. And if you watch anything about Cam Whitmore, his drop steps when he's working in the post is unbelievable for a small forward, and his bounce off of 2 feet is incredible as well. Cam Whitmore is going to be one of those guys who are up there in this class. And then talking about another forward at 5 here who will also be in this top echelon. I know a lot of people have him in the 7 to 12 range, but the more I watch him, the more I fall in love with his game. And it's Taylor Hendricks, a forward out of UCF. And I know some people out there, or someone out there, has been vying for this guy to be this high. And the more I watch him, it shows why he could be a top 5 player in this class. He's 6'9", 210, has like a 7'3" wingspan, great three-point shooter who isn't afraid to score off the dribble at all. Likes to attack the basket, but that might not even be his strongest suit. His strongest suit might be on the defensive end. A great shot blocker. Like I said, he's 6'9", has a 7'3" wingspan. He's got the size and the length to play great defense in the NBA. He barely gets knocked off balance, but the only thing about him is his foul trouble. He tends to get in foul trouble, or he makes dumb fouls. That could be seen as an issue if he is playing a 4 in the NBA. Some teams might want to play him at the 3. I'd say he's more of a 4. But the fact that he can score at all levels on the offensive end and be a great rim protector on the other end shows that he is definitely a top 5 player in this class. And now moving on to number 6. And number 6 and number 7 will kind of combine into one. And if you have been following any bit of the draft process, prospects that are coming up, you've probably heard about the Thompson twins, Ausar and Amen Thompson. They decided to opt out of going the college or the G League route, and they went with the new Overtime Elite program that was created this past year, with Overtime a part of House of Highlights. And both Ausar and Amen are both guard forward types players. Both are very similar play style. Great playmakers, great on-ball defenders. There's just one thing that separates them both. And I have Ausar ranked 6 and Amen ranked 7. Ausar, the thing that makes him stand out a little bit more than his brother is the fact that he is jump out of the gym athletic. Like, this guy can attack the basket like no other can. Kind of like how Scoot can attack the basket. We're seeing the same from Ausar. He was an MVP in the Overtime League this year. The only concern with both of them is the shot. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And the thing that makes Amen stand out is his playmaking. Both, like I said, both are really good playmakers, but Amen is just a outstanding, potentially the best playmaker in this class. I would say best facilitator in the class. But like I just previously mentioned, their biggest issue is their shot. They have some of the ugliest shot forms I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen some pretty ugly shot forms. They've got it's so ugly. You have to look it up yourself. It's pretty bad. They both shot, I think, under 30% this year from three in an overtime league where your competition is a bunch of me, I guess. So I don't know how much you want to really to base that on how he can translate. Asar has said that he is willing to work on his three-point ability and stretch that into the NBA. I haven't seen anything about Amen saying it. I assume he echoes the same sentiment, but another big concern with it is what is the level of play in the overtime elite league, whatever this is, right? What is the level of play? You're still playing against high schoolers in this league. Like, how much can we credit, or how much credibility does this league have when it comes to translating to the NBA? There was one guy last year, I believe his name was Gene Montero. He was a projected first-round pick. I think he was from the Bahamas, came over to play in this overtime league, and I had him kind of in like the 30s, 40s range when a lot of people have him in the first round. I think he ended up going at the late second round. If you don't know, the first round's 1 through 30 with the 30 teams in the NBA. I had him in the 40s. He ended up going like 50s and now plays overseas. You just don't know the credibility with this league and how much talent there really is. So it might take some translation. I'm not as in love with these guys as all the other experts are. But then again, there might be a reason why they're experts and I'm just some regular white kid online that doesn't really know as much as they do. But I don't know. I think that I think that they're not as good as advertised. I think there's better players in this class that are battle tested within college basketball and better competition. Just like my number 8 guy, and Jarris Walker, a forward out of Houston. He was the American Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Sure, Taylor Hendricks was arguably a better defender by stats, the stats that are recorded, but Jarris Walker and all the advanced analytics was just as good, if not even better, than Taylor Hendricks had. He was a top-ranked prospect, always a lottery-projected guy going into his freshman season at Houston, and he's got an NBA-ready body, 6'8", 240. He is a lineman out here playing forward for college basketball and now in the NBA. He is unbelievably athletic. If I were to look at him and you were to look at Isaiah Stewart of the Detroit Pistons, I would say that they're the exact same player, except the thing about Jarris Walker is he's a better defender, and his shot is really good. Or I wouldn't say really good, but it's very good for what his standard probably would be. It's a work in progress, but the form is actually pretty decent. I wouldn't doubt that he's going to become a serviceable three-point shooter in the NBA with the right coaching, the right system, and all this other stuff. I think Jarris Walker is the guy that he was up there in the top 4 or 5 people originally, kind of fell down because of some other players getting more hype, the Thompson twins, all these other guys. But he's going to be a serviceable NBA player for a long time. And with his body frame and size, there's no doubt in my mind he can find his way in this league and be a contributing piece as a 4 in this league. Not big enough to be a 5, has the strength to play defense as a 5, but you're going to need somebody else a little bit taller out there with him to help crash that glass. Moving on to number 9. And this might not like mean anything to you guys who don't, follow the NBA draft process, but again, this is my rankings of my opinion, what I've watched, what I like, who I prefer, and who I think would be the best prospect. This is not per team. This is just looking at this player, evaluating him, and watching his film, and deciding on how good of a player he is. And at number 9, this is going to be a surprise to a ton of people if you follow the draft prospects. But number 9 is Kobe Bufkin, a guard from Michigan. And you've probably never heard that name in your life. Even if you do follow college basketball, some of you guys may not have ever heard of him before. He's a point guard I guess you could say a point guard. He plays point guard and shooting guard out of Michigan. But he might be my favorite guy in this class. A lefty that when you watch him play, you're looking at like a hybrid mix of De'Aaron Fox and Jalen Brunson. Something about him is just super fun to watch, super explosive. Shot 71% from shots around the paint and around the rim as a point guard. That is incredible. 71%. That's like center. That's better than center levels at sometimes, right? He's probably shooting better from around the rim than Jarris Walker is above us. Like that. That's incredible. And he shoots almost 40% on catch and shoot threes. Like, come on. Like, what are we looking at here when we're talking about top prospects? Why is he not up there? Is it because, he didn't have a great college season by numbers? Is it because all these other guys were higher ranked prospects than him? I don't know. He's an excellent finisher, as we said about the 71% from shots in the paint. He's not afraid to pull up from three at all. Catch and shoot, he's very good at. Off the pick and roll, dribble handoffs, he shoots incredibly well off of that. When you watch him work off the dribble, his mid-range shots remind you a lot of Jalen Brunson. His dribble turnarounds remind you a lot about Jalen Brunson. His shot form is like De'Aaron Fox. He runs out in transition like De'Aaron Fox. Obviously not as fast as De'Aaron Fox was, but he runs out and gets in transition, and his explosiveness is like De'Aaron Fox. And something that, people just don't even realize, he's a plus defender, a fantastic defender, super athletic, super fast, has a good frame for a point guard. He's about 6'4". I think he is the most underrated player in this draft overall. He's mocked right now to be in like the early to late teens. This is a top 10 talent for sure from what I've watched. Now, you can go and do your own research. You can go and watch your own stuff. But if you watch the way he plays, there's no doubt in my mind that he needs to be up here in the top 10 come draft night. He is unbelievable. And then moving on to number 10 is a guy that you've all probably heard of. If you haven't heard of his name and you see him, you know exactly who he is. Anthony Black, a guard and /forward out of Arkansas, was one of the top 5 prospects, I believe, going into high school last year. He's an elite defender. I think he's 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", depends on the measurables. Elite defender, suffocates dribblers as an on-ball defender, has long arms and his quick hands allow him to tip passes, jump in the lane, steal inbounds passes. He's an elite defender, like I just mentioned. A very solid playmaker, honestly. You look at his assist numbers, and you wouldn't think that he is, but honestly, he is a good enough playmaker. Some of his reads are questionable, and that's always going to be the case about going into the NBA. What are player reads like? Some of his are questionable, but for the most part, he's pretty intriguing on that end. He can play 1 through 3, but the big thing about him is his shot. Will it develop? He's kind of got a weird form. It's more of like a push shot. I think it'll end up getting changed easily. And with the right team, the right coaching, and the right guidance, I think he could develop into a really solid NBA player for whoever ends up drafting him here. Anthony Black being my number 10 prospect. And once again, if you want to see all 60, there's a bunch of guys that I haven't named that are higher up on my list. You may never heard of, you want to learn about, go to yoursportsdigest.com, click on the tab and look at the NBA section where the 2023 draft big board is. I'll have a mock draft out probably by the weekend. I'll probably post it on all my socials that it's out, but this is my big board. This is my announcement of my website. I've gone on talking way too long to you guys about this stuff. There's not much really else to talk about. We got some baseball, I guess we can kind of look at. The NHL's on right now. I'm watching the game. It's 1-1 at the end of the first period. In Game 3, there's not much really to talk about there. I know not many of you guys are as interested, but I'll keep you updated here. I'm watching the Red Sox absolutely suck. And shout out to the Southern Miss Athletics for not giving student tickets to anybody and allowing me to have to pay a lot of money to go to our super regional game against Tennessee this weekend. I forgot that I'm paying more for tuition than some of these old guys are for season tickets here. If you don't know and you haven't heard me complain about it already, Southern Miss is not selling any tickets to students. All of the tickets, all 5,600 tickets to the game, are being sold to the season ticket holders only, because every game this year has been sold out. They are giving priority to them. I think it's kind of crap. I think as a student, you kind of need that student environment, that student body there to help out. Granted, Southern Miss fans as alumni are super rowdy, but you need the students. As a student, as a college student, that is what you look forward to, is going to games. And at Southern Miss, when this is our only good program we have, our only consistently good program, you gotta let the students in. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I'll tell you what, I'm finding a way into the damn stadium. There's no doubt in my mind. I'll hop the fence. Please don't show this to the feds. If so, I'm hopping the fence. I'll climb through the gutters. I'll sit on top of the press box roof. I don't care. I'll make friends with somebody in the apartment complex next to it so I can sit on their balcony. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm just not paying $251 to go watch this game when, as a student, you could have bought tickets probably for $60 like they were last year when I tried to get my tickets for the Ole Miss series last year. But it's okay. I already know Southern Miss is going to win, and I'll just be booking my trip to Omaha here in the next week. So I'm not too concerned there. To the Top. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. Once again, To the Top. We'll be seeing you at the other end when we go to Omaha. Check out yoursportsdigest.com. We have the top big boards there. We're going to have a mock draft out this weekend. I appreciate you guys as always. I'm Alex McNinch, and you just got your Sports Digest.